Hello and welcome to Scarlet Serpent readings. Thank you so much for joining me for today's special pick a card reading, which is kind of like an April Fool's special. My birthday is on April 1st, so I thought I'm well qualified to do kind of like an April Fool's sort of reading. And in this one, we're going to be tapping into your inner fool, so kind of seeing what that inner fool is like, how you can connect with it, and a message from that side of you so that you could live a more lighthearted life, connected to spirit and kind of feeling confident in your random movement and lifestyle and just enjoying feeling freedom, So I have 3 piles for you. The first pile is going to be this card here, pile 1. I have pile 2, which is this card here. And then I have pile 3, which is this card here. So go ahead and pick your pile in the timestamps below. Of course, you could pause the video if you need to take more time to decide on one pile or multiple piles if you want, but otherwise I'll see you at your reading. Hi pile 1, if you chose this card, this is going to be your reading. This card actually represents your inner fool, which I think is very proud and flamboyant, loud, and fun. And I got an additional card to explain this one, just to kind of describe the energy of your inner fool, and we got this. So there's this nurturing side of you. I think part of this is you're almost defensive of your inner fool. Like if someone threatens your spontaneity or fun, you kind of you might communicate with your inner child a lot, or you might say it's okay, they just don't understand you or us. But I do think this part of you is very strong and loud, and it might have been part of your life struggle to kind of tap into that energy. It might be something that is contrasting who you feel like you are. So if you feel shy but your inner fool is very wild, there could have been kind of at least a part of your life has been integrating these energies and bringing them into balance, and allowing more of this to come out, because it does bring a lot of joy, of course. And I got a few cards describing how you could connect with this inner fool energy. And it's interesting because I have the 5 of Pentacles and the 10 of Wands, which I wouldn't necessarily consider cards that would connect to the inner fool necessarily, but I think a lot of it happens to be through struggle, that like sometimes things get so hard and so bad for you that you just laugh, that it's just it happens sometimes, or people just, they don't know what else to do but to laugh at certain situations. And I know some shamans actually laugh a lot, because, and I think I had mentioned this in a previous reading, that if people take life too seriously, they couldn't possibly know how to handle it. So I think it's through your hardship that you actually connect with your inner fool, and that's actually when the Queen of Wands comes out. And this Queen of Wands is directly connected to, I think, your inner fool, where it's almost like through your, I don't want to say carelessness, but through your freedom, you kind of showcase more of your inner power, and it's very powerful. And it's kind of like you tap into more magic through kind of being less attached to the physical world, through the problems and trials, I guess, of the third dimension, that sort of thing. I just wanted to clarify these cards. And we have the Queen of Pentacles, the Six of Pentacles, underneath the Ten of Wands, and then the Five of Swords. I'm just gonna look at these for a second. I think a lot of this has to do with taking control back. It's kind of like the jester just doesn't care, so they'll be able to say, the jester says whatever they need to. They could be completely honest, but say it in a lighthearted way, but they still get to express themselves fully. I think when the resources are depleted, or when you find yourself in a struggling financial situation, you're just like, well, I might as well make something. I might as well. It can't really. I mean, it can get worse, but you're not afraid of it. You'd rather be in control than to depend on others. I think this is a very independent energy, especially with Queen of Wands, Queen of Pentacles, and even the Five of Swords. It just feels like you're this owl and you're not afraid to kind of exert your authority, exert your power. And I think this is more of a defensive thing. I think this is just showing me this energy, this inner fool energy as well, that it's very defensive of yourself. And I think that's something you've developed over time, that you've learned to defend yourself and allow yourself to be expressive and, again, kind of like dance in the night, that sort of thing, because I do feel as though you've had a lot of judgment from colleagues or from friends, from family, and it's that point where you've recognized you can't really control what these people have to say, but you can just live your life to the fullest, and that just requires a certain amount of just carelessness, like tapping into like this divine feminine wild energy where it just doesn't matter anymore. Like imagine like witches that are laughing in a circle, that just and I guess with the Queen of Wands, this reminds me of witch energy a little bit with the black hat, where it's tapping into that wild side, and that's kind of where you tap into your inner fool a little bit. So let's get a message from this part of you. What does your inner fool have to say? I have two cards here. So I have the Five of Cups, the Four of Cups, the High Priestess, and the Knight of Pentacles. And the Five of Cups and Four of Cups kind of tie back to this Five of Pentacles a little bit. Where I think emotional depletion kind of affects your finances in a way, where it affects how confident you are in yourself. If you're not feeling emotionally satisfying, and I think your inner fool recognizes this, and it might not be that obvious, but through your intuition you could realize that there's this direct connection between being emotionally satisfied and making money, or being creative, doing something physical, in other words. And I think with this Nine of Pentacles, I don't know, it feels to me a little different, but that you get your sunlight from having that balance of the thing that I'm doing also touches my heart. It brings satisfaction at a soul level. I don't think you could just grind things out. I don't think you could just put your head down and put the work in without feeling that it means something to you personally, because that's sort of what leads to this exhaustion. I think that's why the Six of Pentacles is here too, is that Three of the Pentacles has to do with satisfying your inner self, your inner child, and like, does this align with who I really am and what means something to me, as opposed to just doing it to, again, kind of grind it out, if you will. And I think you know this, but sometimes you might ignore your intuition. I think this might be a conditioned thing, actually, that you've sometimes ignored yourself because it would be, I was going to say easier, or result in less conflict with others. And you've, I think, sacrificed your own, not well-being, but your own heart center for other people. I think that's what this Five of Swords is saying, actually, is that before you were that person who would retreat, the Aquarius, Venus energy, where it's kind of like there's that one figure that's walking away from the battle, and now you don't really care if you have to slay a few people. That's what stepping into this Queen of Wands is. And actually quite a bit of this feminine energy of High Priestess, Queen of Wands, Queen of Pentacles, and the Queen, I don't know, I lost it. I guess this energy here, but lots of that divine feminine nurturing energy. I think the twist is that instead of nurturing others, putting others before you, you have the potential through tapping into your inner Fool that's just as important to nurture yourself and defend yourself and allow yourself to express all of your desires, because they do matter and they will translate to different opportunities. Just clarifying those. I have Two of Pentacles, the Fool. Yay! This is kind of special being here. And it was underneath the Four of Cups, so it's kind of like the vision comes from taking a new perspective, allowing yourself to wander and see the world in different ways so that you could kind of realize the cup that is available and seeing it as something that's valuable. There's a lot of cups here, actually. The Nine of Cups here. And that just goes to show, again, the importance of your own emotional satisfaction and kind of attunement to what makes you really happy. Attunement to what really matters to you on a soul level. And with the Knight of Pentacles and the Four of Pentacles, it doesn't seem so much like saving money or hoarding or anything like that. It just feels like being mindful of how much work you put in, more so than anything. Kind of like don't overwork. I just feel like this group has the potential to kind of overcompensate through just putting their head down and almost doing what society or family or loved ones feel you should be doing. So just, I think the Fool would be reminding you to make sure that if you're putting a lot of effort and energy into something, that it at some level feels like it's worth it, not just to get a reward or to get money or to retire early, but that it's worth it just for the sake of doing it, that there's a certain amount of satisfaction to it. We have the number 2 with Ouroboros, cycles. This kind of ties back to the Two of Pentacles. So I think maybe this inner Fool might be trying to get you out of a certain pattern that you're in, especially in terms of overworking for others, in terms of not feeling like you have the proper amount of maybe financial abundance, although the potential is there again. I just think that for you to truly make that kind of living, it's more of independence. I just feel like you do well on your own, and you're not really meant to work for other people. And I think at a solar level, you have to just make something for yourself that you'll actually enjoy, and through that joy, others will be drawn to you. They'll be drawn to your joy, and it's kind of like, I think that's what this energy is about too, is like, you'll be doing exactly what you want, how you want to do it, in the style that you want to do it, and that will draw people into you. That'll draw in abundance, draw in the right people, draw in love, and that it's kind of like circling that love back to you. That's kind of what this card is showing me too, is that and the Six of Pentacles that showed up earlier, it's kind of like what you put in, you get out. So just being mindful of all of the different levels of energy that you're putting into something, not just your time and focus, but your love as well, and that will come back to you as well. So hopefully you found this reading helpful. Just comment, like, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next reading. Take care. Hi Pile 2, if you chose this card, this is going to be your reading. This is a message from your inner fool, and this card actually represents your inner fool in a lot of ways. I'll elaborate on that. I have a few cards out, so 2 oracle cards and a few tarot cards, and then that's before we get a message from your inner fool. So I have this card clarified by this oracle card representing your inner fool. Definitely, I think there's a level of complexity to your inner fool. I think there's it's kind of elusive and difficult to understand this part of you, I think. And I also feel as though this inner fool is heavily influenced by, like the card shows, outside influence, outside noise, and so forth. So it's kind of like, I think you've learned to be aware of what you consume, as far as media, videos, music, and so forth. That does influence what you feel like you can do to set yourself free in a lot of ways. But definitely a lot of mental. It's this part of you is very deep, and I say that because we also have the Moon card, and this one. Just, it feels like, sometimes it feels like this part of you is underneath your level of consciousness, but not necessarily your shadow. So you might get these two confused if at times there's this part of you that wants to do something a bit wild. You're like, no, you might be used to talking yourself out of things that this part of you would want to do, just because you're not sure if it's what part is speaking in that point. And I'd say as you've understood yourself, as you've really isolated yourself in a lot of ways, but you've come to understand that these impulses are just a part of you that wants to have fun and wants to understand the world, but in a way that's not intellectual. And then we have the Ace of Wands here. So that's kind of that. Hopefully you can see these. I don't know. This desire to create pure creative potential. And it does contrast all of the water, actually the air and water that we have. So there's kind of that balance in the Fool itself within you, where like your action, the things that you really enjoy at that level have to have some sort of component that uses the mind, because otherwise it would just kind of be meaningless to you, I think. It's like you don't mind having your body move slow as long as your mind is moving fairly quickly. So I think that's kind of where... Okay, so that makes sense. We have the Queen of Swords underneath the Moon. And it's interesting, oh wow. Because the owl has its wing, I'll show you, but the owl has its wings spread just like the moon, so I think there's something about that. it's like, unlike the fool who kind of wants to just play and be outside and be spontaneous, I think your energy is very different in that you enjoy learning things, but learning things through observation and through your own interpretation. So not necessarily learning from a textbook or studying in that way, although you might supplement knowledge from that. So kind of let your experience, you see something and you're like, oh, I want to know more about that. See if anyone wrote about this experience, and that's kind of that allows you to navigate this, because you just have a very busy mind and you want to use it as much as possible. Underneath the Moon card, we had the Queen of Swords. So both of these figures were spreading their wings. So I think that has a lot to show of the things that light you up, and your desire to, again, put to words, make understood the things that are unknowable in a lot of ways. You also have the owl again with the Five of Swords, which showed up in the last reading, underneath the Temperance card. Oh Lord. This camera. I still don't understand its focus, but because it's underneath the Temperance card, I think there's some self-sabotage that has happened in the past, but I think you've come to understand yourself that just because you're taking a break, it doesn't mean you're not being productive. It kind of adds to your level of productivity. It kind of like supplements in a way your desire to learn more if you take these breaks. And I think that might be why this card is here, is that this shadow part of you, this outside influence, can be a bit of both, kind of like can disguise itself as other people when in reality it's you. I just think that you feel it's bad to take a break from using your mind constantly, and it could kind of backlash. So I think part of your inner fool journey is finding balance in keeping an active, not just mind, but in the way you experience the world. That I don't know, I think you like to experiment, and that's part of your fool energy, is experimenting with, if it is kind of rituals and witchcraft, it would be through kind of cataloging these things. Otherwise, but if you're constantly doing it and needing to see results all the time, it could be distracting and not fun anymore. And I think that's where this balance comes from. But I also feel as though, specifically for this pile, if you connect with this inner fool, it could lead to rediscovering your passion. And although the fool can be like that passion energy, it's like you could actually translate that into finances. And it's kind of interesting because we had the Queen of Pentacles in the previous reading. So there is some sort of stability to be made from tapping into this fool energy. It's not just sort of this silly part of you that pleases your inner child. It's like your inner child might have a secret to really making in this world, while not having to sacrifice one thing or another. So it's like your passion will allow you to have the endurance to do something physical that'll attract abundance and, you know, personal satisfaction, emotional satisfaction. So it's kind of like it all comes together, and maybe that's been part of your journey so far, is valuing that creative side of you, that it has something to offer the world. And I think through this creativity, you'll be able to better analyze kind of like, again, the psychology of yourself, of your own mind, and maybe of, I guess, humanity as a whole. And that, again, is fun for you. That's something that helps you engage with reality, so you don't get too bored, because you might get bored fairly easily, especially with temperance. Temperance could mean patience, and patience could mean boredom, depending on what your sign is, and what the situation is. Like, just be patient. Like, I don't feel like sitting still right now. It's kind of a waste of time. So I could definitely see this pile being in that part of the spectrum, I guess, as far as signs go. And then we have the Three of Wands. It was just, this card fell at the end, so I think patience is a bit of a lesson for this pile, especially with the 3 being there, and being connected back to the Queens in a way. Oh, that's weird. There's a strong connection between this pile and the previous pile. It's like they're mirrors of each other. Just in case you were interested in that one, but you don't have to be, definitely. This feels like a more serious pile than the previous one, though, just because of the owls there and the Queen and the Moon and all this. But it just feels like you have the strong potential to manifest, and part of your journey has been kind of learning how to do so, how to manifest quickly, or and you take it as a game. I think, again, it's like this spirituality can be playful and fun as if you keep it lighthearted, this experimentation and understanding of self. So let's get a message from your inner Fool. You have the King of Pentacles, 9 of Swords, whoops. Of course, Temperance comes back, so I guess that's kind of what's the word? And the Star. It's funny because I almost mixed Temperance up with the Star, but I guess the Star showed up anyway. I think that'll be it for now. What the message is? Well, it definitely kind of reminds me that patience might be a struggle for you. Patience and balance. And the balance is bringing in the rest. And I think through rest is where you'll be able to really sit and decide what you want to manifest specifically, what kind of future you want to have. Even if you obtain it through action, it's like, do I really want to go to school and study this subject and then physically going? So it's a bit of this balance of practical and understanding that the universe, spirit, has a part and a say in your manifestation. We're going to clarify these cards, though, but with the 9 of Swords, it kind of feels like let go of your mind a little bit more, and find stability in your body. And through studying the body with the mind, kind of blending these two together and balancing those out, and that's when kind of like your inspiration will really, because I feel like there's been this creative desire, but you don't really know how to make it physical. I have the window open and it's raining, but oh well, I'm way too lazy to get it. Yeah, let's just clarify these. I'll show you the Temperance card and the Star card. This is this flower. So you'll notice that the Star has the water, and the Moon was there, and the Queen of Swords was there. I know it's a bit of a stretch, but I think by mixing these energies, that's how you create that manifestation that you want. There's this subconscious part of you that you can't really understand, but you try to analyze it, and it's through that analysis that you'll realize that there's this dream that your inner Fool wants to create, and when you're in alignment with it, things just kind of get easier, and I guess the manifestation happens a bit more quickly. But let's just get King of Swords. So the King of Pentacles and King of Swords, 5 of Wands, 9 of Cups again, underneath Temperance. So, and then the 3 of Wands again. And the 3 of Wands is like right underneath the Star and the other 3 of Wands. So there is this dream that you want to make a reality, and that takes, like this card is all about patience, the knowing that it's coming, and that your desire to have it is bringing it forth in a way. But I think the thing that makes patience easier is just being with yourself and understanding and loving all parts of you, and that includes the shadow, that includes the moon, and the part of you that wants to not do much of anything and be lazy mentally. We do have the Queen, or the King of Pentacles, King of Swords, and the Queen of Wands, the Queen of Swords. So there's a lot of that sword energy. It could talk about influence of other people, kind of shifting your perspectives. Just or it could be saying, this is definitely a person, a very influential person in your life that might bring struggle to you, actually. Now it kind of makes sense that this is here, because we had the five of swords on top of the 9 of swords on top of the 5 of wands. So there's this sort of conflict that is being caused by this other person. And if it's not someone who's physically present, like you can't think of anyone, it could be someone in your past that has kind of created this this noise in your head about what you should be doing versus what you want to be doing. And it's almost forcing you to choose between King of Pentacles and King of Swords, where it's like, either I get to engage in my mind, I get to be, for you, this King of Swords is creative freedom. It's where you're full, it's where you're happy, really. But it's almost as if you've been convinced that the Queen of Swords energy is bad. Like a lot of people say, like the Queen of Swords is a bit stubborn or this and that, and that might be influencing your perception of yourself in a way, and causing this sort of energy of discomfort, really. And this is kind of that Saturn is like squeezing in this desire to be free, and it kind of feels like you're stuck in a lot of ways. But that's a mental thing, like the 9 of Swords suggests. So let's get an oracle card, just to kind of close out the message from your inner fool. It's like you have a lot of potential, and you feel like it should be present physically already. And you have effort, the builder. It's kind of this thing that it takes time, especially the bigger the dream, the more energy it takes to make that a reality. And I think that's why you have the King of Pentacles twice in your reading. I don't know if I mentioned that, or I think you might be comfortable leading, like leading a group, leading a project, and this frustration might come from trying to do everything yourself, when in reality it might be better for you to lead a team and direct them into doing what you have a very strong leadership energy, and I think you would have the potential to understand the psychology of people too. So I mean, that would give you an advantage as well. But Queen of Swords, King of Pentacles, there's a lot of powerful energy that you have, and I think it's understandable that you just would want to translate what's in your mind into something physical, and that's part of your Fool's journey, is bringing the balance to those things and making those things important to you, both of these things important to you, as opposed to just leaning towards one versus the other. But again, not the Fool's reading that I was expecting for this sort of thing, but hopefully you found it helpful. Please let me know in the comments, like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff if you haven't already, and I hope to see you in the next reading. Take care. Hi, Pile 3. If you chose this card, this is going to be your reading, all about your inner fool and a message from your inner fool. And this card actually represents your inner fool. I don't know if you can see it. There we go. I also got a clarifying card for you from the same oracle deck. So this card shows definitely that the inner fool has gone through a healing journey, and it's almost through your pain you've learned to heal not only yourself, but kind of offer this healing wisdom and knowledge and to others as well. But you've also obtained a lot of kind of abundance through your understanding of your own growth and your own, again, healing. And I have a few tarot cards describing your inner fool as well, and one of them is the Hanged One, and it kind of reminds me of the transformation that has resulted from your healing journey to something big, magical, beautiful, and powerful as well, because we have the King of Wands and the Eight of Pentacles here. I'll probably do it this way. Let's do it this way. Just so you could see that transition from the caterpillar transforming, and then it becomes a wolf and a hummingbird being able to move freely. So I think your inner fool might be going through at this time sort of that transformation, so it might feel dark in there, it might feel painful, but I think that's going to give you a lot more confidence in yourself, and I think part of your work, if you will be kind of healing others, and it won't seem like work to you, but it'll actually be something that helps the environment in a way. It's like creating abundance for people around you, or the community around you. And I mean, we're going to clarify these, but it's like your inner fool is equal parts serious and powerful, but also playful and free. But we'll see. Just continue this description of your fool energy before you get a message from your inner fool. Of the Three of Pentacles, Four of Swords. Yeah, I guess with the lone wolf it makes sense. It's like this inner fool is like a lone wolf in that you could easily work with others. You could easily be part of a team, but at the same time retreat and not feel like bound to anybody. You're perfectly capable of making it on your own, working for yourself, making your own money, your own income, and just comfortable being alone. But at the same time, you realize that you could build a lot more with the help of a team. These two cards. And this one was underneath the Hanged One, so it's like, I don't know, you go back and forth between being part of a community, being productive, and kind of just drifting away and being alone, and I think you can overexhaust yourself through spiritual work sometimes, or just providing for a family in general. I think your inner fool really helps you connect with your physical body, and it's kind of that reminder, especially if you're someone who does a lot of spiritual work, not to neglect your physical body, because that's kind of the vehicle in which you can do this work. It's kind of like you won't be able to move if the car is broken down, just because you haven't nourished it. So it's kind of like that reminder to, through your healing process and through your healing of others, not to neglect yourself, because it could, yes, maybe acupuncture is something you're interested in, or you thought of, or something you've received, but definitely that sort of energy healing is something you could offer to people, and that's something you would benefit from yourself. But I think part of the Fool energy is kind of, you don't mean to heal others, but you do. And I think another part of it is drifting in and out between wanting to be with people and wanting to be alone. We have the King of Swords, the Eight of Cups, and the Six of Swords and Nine of Cups. I'll show these to you real quick. So King of Swords. This is King of Swords. Hopefully it's fairly clear. And you'll notice straight away, just from the colors, the balance between cups and swords energy. And the swords are fairly positive. Most of these are, I guess, positive cards, if you could say that. But I think you like to move away quickly from things and people. Like, you can't stay in the same place for too long because it isn't satisfying you emotionally, and you get physically tired from the influence. You might get drained from feeling the need to heal other people. You just might take on those wounds from others. Especially with Pisces energy, is feeling strong. And I think that's why this Fool likes being independent as much as possible and retreating. I just feel like if you have that hunch to do that, to retreat or to move different jobs or different to different places or different homes, that's actually your inner Fool kind of pushing you to new experiences, because I think new experiences really light you up, I should say. Because the Eight of Cups and the Six of Swords are both cards of movement, and one is reluctant movement, like you don't really want to move on, but you feel like you should, with the Eight of Cups, and then one is moving on, but you might have baggage. So there's sort of this, you try not to be too attached to the others that you work with, but ultimately you're not afraid of moving on, especially with the King of Swords here. It's kind of like another very independent feeling card, along with the King of Wands. So I think despite the amount of healing you offer people, and despite the nourishment you give to others, you have at least a strong potential to be very masculine in being able to cut yourself off from others and have that strong boundary, and feel free and not need to feel guilty of letting people go sometimes that are kind of clinging on to your energy and draining you. Yeah, we'll take all of these. I have the Page of Wands and underneath the King of Swords. The Seven of Cups, the Fool, and the King of Cups. Let's clarify this King of Cups. It's too many cards. The Sun. I think similar to another pile, you find it increasingly important to take care of your own emotional well-being, doing things that make you feel genuinely happy and brighten you up. And I think part of your journey has been kind of following that path to your own happiness, and realizing that through your happiness you have more of an influence on the environment than if you were to help others at an individual level. It's kind of like trying to maintain the garden through just feeding one flower at a time, instead of becoming the cloud that rains. I don't know if that makes sense, but hopefully you know what I'm getting at. It's kind of like you get bigger so that you can influence more, by being happy. It's like becoming the sun as opposed to just watering things and doing things manually. It's kind of like shifting dimensions in a way, and that's kind of your journey. It's like that's especially the Fool being here is very powerful, and that's kind of what's made you move so much from different places that haven't satisfied you. Tapping into this young energy is what will bring you to the sun, and will really bring this abundance, because I think this belongs to you. Whether or not you've experienced it fully I think it'll depend on where you are in this journey, but and yeah, with these emotional cards too, it's like you've been trying to choose the right cup, and the part of you that thinks it knows what it wants it might be your ego, or Scorpio, Venus and Scorpio, which I'm a little biased towards Scorpio, but I'm not going to get into that. I'm actually very biased against Scorpio energy, sorry, a little bit, because I think of the same sort of person who I've attracted, who like deliberately tries to cover things up, and it was only through becoming more fully embodying the Pisces that I could snuff it out really quickly and kind of end that really quickly. And I think the only reason why I'm mentioning this is because I feel like this pile might have gone through, not necessarily specifically a Scorpio like that, or kind of that cycle of Scorpios, but definitely that sort of energy that has forced you to cut people off and cut situations off, cut jobs off that has drained you. And I think that's been part of your Fool's journey, and that's what the Page of Wands and the Fool being here represent. It's kind of like being a bit more carefree and packing lightly and being able to move and not feel too attached to these people who will always need healing, and they'll always come to you for healing because you're such a caring, giving, nurturing person, and their healing journey will never end because they have you to heal for them instead of them healing for themselves. So it's kind of like, again, you could heal more when you're fully in your Fool energy, I guess. It's kind of like bringing that lighthearted desire to bounce around and explore things. It's gonna end somewhere big that'll nourish you fully, and so will nourish the environment fully, if that makes sense too. Hopefully it does. I just think of this, it's like, and bees, it's getting to that point where work doesn't feel like work anymore. You're just being you, and through that you'll find your place in the environment in the same way, Oh look, and we see, I think this is a hummingbird in the Fool card. If you could, I don't know if the camera will allow me to show it to you, but yeah, probably not. Well, if you could imagine, in this corner there's a hummingbird. So you could have a hummingbird spirit guide. I actually feel like that's a very strong possibility, especially if you see them physically in your world. The hummingbird would represent kind of your inner Fool, moving you through life to your inner sun, which is where you'll be able to influence the world at a much bigger level, and in a way that'll make you happy, because that's just as important as healing others and being there for other people. So let's get one more oracle card just to, I guess, get a final message from your inner Fool and close out the reading. So well, we have 28 with transformation and the serpents there, which is of course very much related to this Hanged One card specifically, because the caterpillar is transforming into a butterfly. So it might be a representation of where you're at right now. So if it is kind of like this dark night of the soul, or you just don't feel like the things that you enjoyed are enjoyable anymore, that's just a shift, and you will find joy in something and step fully into kind of your destiny, a very positive thing. It's just kind of like that limbo period of unknowing, but it's temporary, and it does seem very positive in the end, if you follow your inner fool's guidance. But hopefully you enjoyed this reading. Please let me know in the comments, like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and I hope to see you in the next reading. Take care.